Under the pale winter sunlight, James's small farm became the place where Diep gradually discovered her self-worth with every new word she learned. With James, the wealthy CEO of CES, she received not only love, but also the encouragement to overcome the darkness of her past. Today, Lynn revealed a secret that boosted Diep's confidence, while James worked to perfect the farm in preparation for a major new project. Yet, behind the scenes, James's father was quietly ramping up the pressure, setting new challenges to test their love. In episode 21, we'll find out whether Diep is strong enough to weather the storms and if their love can overcome the barriers imposed by family. On an early winter morning at James's farm, the chill of December still reigned, and a thick mist blanketed the lush vegetable beds that Diep tended daily. Each dewdrop glistened on the leaves like tiny jewels beneath the soft dawn light, much like fragile sparks of hope deep within her heart. The temperature hovered around 4°C, and the biting cold seeped through her patchwork jacket, making her chapped hands tremble as she tied bundles of freshly harvested greens to prepare them for market. Her rosy fingers curled slightly each time they brushed against the rough, worn twine. Standing by the porch, clutching an old frayed bamboo basket, Diep's eyes shone with a reflective mix of contemplation and the lingering joy from the previous reading lesson when James patiently taught her her first words. Mum, Dad, home. Every word she managed to read was like a tiny beam of light dispelling the shadows of self-doubt, a small gateway leading her into a world she had never dared to dream of. James believed in her, trusted that she was capable. His smile of encouragement still warmed her heart like a gentle flame against the winter chill, melting the cold that crept into every breath. Haki, the small, loyal dog she had rescued from her former husband's home, trotted excitedly around her feet. Its wet nose softly brushed her hand, as if sharing in her joy, while its disheveled fur, dusted with morning dew, shimmered under the faint rays of the sun. Smiling, she knelt down to stroke him and whispered softly into the crisp air, "Haki, I'm off to market today. Be a good boy, okay?" As she fastened his worn collar, her cold, trembling fingers met the rough, time-worn twine, then released him to bound freely across the yard. His small paws left whimsical traces on the moist earth, like innocent brushstrokes on the canvas of her life. Watching Haki scamper about the vegetable beds, a sense of relief washed over her, a brief respite from the burdens of a past that had weighed her down for years. Yet the image of James persisted in her mind, stirring both happiness and a vague anxiety. She had only learned a few words, mere basics. Would that be enough to help him? Or was she still as useless as Pau had once declared? As she gripped the basket tightly, memories of those painful days with Pau surged back, like a cold wind slicing through her flesh, carrying with it the sting of pain and humiliation. Pau, her ex-husband, had not only treated her like a slave, but had also forbidden her to touch any knowledge, as if to chain her forever in the darkness of ignorance. "If you're stupid, stay stupid. What's the use of learning to read?" he had roared, his eyes burning red with drunken anger. In a fit of cruelty, he would snatch the tattered old book she had salvaged from a trash heap outside the market and tear it to shreds before her eyes, the scattered pieces fluttering down like the lifeless wings of dying butterflies. Each time she dared to ask about the mysterious letters on packaged goods, the very characters she secretly admired with curious yet fearful eyes, he would strike her. For 5 long years under his roof she was imprisoned in ignorance, forced to toil like a machine, planting under the scorching sun, washing in freezing water, and enduring inexplicable beatings on nights blurred by his drunken rages. Meanwhile, the biting insults from Mrs. May, her mother-in-law, echoed like knives. "Useless girl. If you can't bear children, don't even dream of being a woman. You're fit only to be a beast of burden." On the day she was cast out, she left with nothing in her pocket and nowhere to turn. Only Haki, who loyally trailed behind on the dusty road. Her bare feet bled from the jagged stones, and the night's biting cold seeped into every breath, every wound. A constant reminder of the lowly fate she thought she'd never escape. That lingering sense of worthlessness clung to her like a relentless ghost, leaving her to wonder if she could ever keep pace with James, the talented and gentle man who had opened a whole new world to her, igniting within her a belief that she, too, had worth. Tu Diep loaded the basket onto her old bicycle, its worn-out saddle chafing her aching hands, and set off for the town market. With each heavy, labored step along the dew-soaked, uneven dirt road, her breath emerged in small clouds of white. She had to try, to prove that she was not a burden on him, to show that she was not as useless as Pau had once declared. Paddling faster, her determination blazed like a tiny flame amid the winter, even though her legs were fatigued from relentless labor and the cold gnawed at her bones. The market buzzed with the remnants of the Christmas spirit. Stalls still adorned with shimmering tinsel, scraps of red and green paper fluttering in the brisk air, voices and laughter mingling with the hum of passing traffic, and the faint aroma of grilled street food wafting in the cold. Dee parked her bicycle at a familiar corner of the muddy market ground, set her basket down by a weathered wooden fence, and tentatively asked a nearby vendor, "Excuse me, may I sell my greens here?" A kindly middle-aged woman, her face lined with time yet radiating warmth, nodded and replied, "Of course, dear, go right ahead." Carefully, Diep arranged her bundles of vegetables on an old tarpaulin. The fresh scent of the greens soon spread, catching the attention of passers-by. "How much for these greens?" an elderly woman inquired, holding a bundle with sparkling eyes of delight. "They're 10,000 dong per bunch," Diep answered softly, trying to hide her nervousness. The old woman purchased 2 bunches, handed over the money with a smile, and said, "Such fresh produce, you really take good care of them." Grateful, yet still haunted by thoughts of James, the man who had sparked in her the desire to become a better version of herself and rise from the shadows of her past. Diep couldn't help but wonder if her newly acquired words would ever be enough for him, or if she would always remain as inadequate as Powell's cruel words. Elsewhere on the farm, James stood amidst the fields, holding the new blueprint for his ambitious project. A model farm that combined agriculture with community education. He had just finished a phone call with his construction team, his deep, calm voice carrying over the sound of the wind rustling through the vegetable rows. "Hello, Tung. I'll be checking on the progress this afternoon. Make sure your team and materials are ready." After hanging up, he surveyed the lush greens tended by Diep, then turned his gaze to the vacant lot at the rear of the farm. There, he planned to build a wooden warehouse for storing produce, and a small classroom with a red-tiled roof where local children could learn to read and write. For James, this farm was more than just a production site. It was a place where Diep could shine, where she could truly find her value. He recalled the reading lesson from the previous day, when she read the word home with a radiant smile, her eyes bright with simple yet profound joy. Determined, he devoted his morning to refining a section of the farm, checking the land, measuring distances, and noting the adjustments needed, all the while eagerly anticipating the future they would build together. A future where the farm not only sustained them, but also nurtured their dreams. Returning to her little wooden house, Diep arrived back from the market, her legs weary from the long morning, and each step weighted down by the lingering dew. Her breath appeared in small white puffs in the cold afternoon air as she entered the yard and set her basket beside the weathered wooden fence. Preparing to cook lunch for Haki, her hands trembled slightly from the cold as she murmured, "Come on, let's eat. I'll make some food for you." Carefully undoing the collar on Haki so he could scamper around freely. His short tail wagged like a cheerful greeting, and his matted fur still carried traces of the earth from the vegetable beds. She stoked a small fire with dry firewood collected on the porch. The crackling flames and the faint aroma of smoldering wood brought a touch of warmth to the creaky old wooden house. As she busied herself cooking, measuring rice into a dented clay pot and adding leftover greens for Haki, she suddenly heard familiar footsteps behind her. The soft click of high heels on the ground, like an unusual melody against the rustic backdrop, caught her attention. "Diep, what are you doing?" Lynn called as she stepped in, holding a small gift bag with a few Christmas candies and cookies, their bright red wrappers catching the faint light. "Lynn," Diep exclaimed in surprise, quickly rising from near the stove and hastily wiping her hands on her old apron, her eyes widening at the sight of Lynn in her stylish light blue business dress. The small handbag she carried made her stand out amidst the rustic setting. Lynn smiled brightly, her warm eyes radiating the affection of an older sister. "I brought you a little gift, and I wanted to see how you've been since Christmas." She placed the gift bag on a scarred wooden table, and her gaze fell upon an open book of fairy tales, with its pages faded to a gentle yellow and an illustration of a small house under a moonlit sky. "Are you learning to read?" Lynn asked, a mix of curiosity and admiration in her tone. Diep nodded shyly, her voice barely above a whisper. "James is teaching me. I'm just starting, I only know a few words." Lynn took a seat on a creaky wooden chair, her eyes lighting up with understanding as sunlight streamed through a narrow window. "It's okay to be slow, as long as you keep trying. I too once didn't know how to read. I had to start over from scratch when I was older, letter by letter, just like you are now." Diep's eyes widened in surprise. "Really?" Lynn nodded, her voice soft with reminiscence. "Yes, when I was young my family was poor, and I lost my parents early. No one taught me how to read. I grew up only knowing how to work the fields and collect discarded bottles. It wasn't until I was 20 that I dared to learn again." She smiled gently, a bittersweet look in her eyes as she recalled those tough times. I used to think I was foolish, but then I learned one secret. Believe in yourself. You have to believe you can do it, one step at a time. Diep bowed her head, her hands clasped tightly together. In a small, timid voice, she confessed, "I'm afraid I'm not smart enough. Afraid I can't keep up with James." Lynn grasped her hand, her warmth seeping into Diep's cold, trembling fingers. "Being smart isn't about knowing everything from the start. It's about never giving up. I believe in you, and so does your boss. James didn't choose you because you already know it all. He chose you because you are you, a stronger person than you think." Lifting her eyes, Diep felt a spark of light return, as if a gentle breeze had dispersed the clouds of doubt in her heart. Later in the afternoon, James returned from the vacant lot at the back of the farm, with dirt-stained hands from checking on the construction progress. Mud clinging to his leather shoes and the hem of his modest vest, he entered the wooden house with a look of satisfaction as he observed the emerging framework of the warehouse. Inside, he found Lynn and Diep chatting by a scarred wooden table, the fairy tales book open between them. "Hello, Lynn. Hello, Diep," he greeted, his sun-kissed face breaking into a radiant smile, his deep voice warm and friendly amidst the peaceful atmosphere. Lynn stood up, smoothing her business dress and smiling brightly. "Hi, boss. I was just sharing some study tips with Diep about the awkward early days of learning to read." James nodded, placing the blueprint aside on a corner of the table, his eyes sparkling with trust. Lynn's right. Diep is very smart. All she needs is to believe in herself." Settling into a creaky wooden chair, he opened the book to the next page with enthusiasm. "Shall we continue today?" Diep nodded, her eyes reflecting a newfound confidence thanks to Lynn's kind words, as if a gentle breeze had finally blown away the remnants of self-doubt. James pointed to a short line of text under an illustration of a lush green tree. "This means tree. Why don't you give it a try?" Focusing intently, Diep squinted at the unfamiliar letters, her voice trembling like that of a small child as she uttered, "Tree?" James clapped softly, the sound echoing warmly in the small room. "That's it. Very good." Lynn burst into a hearty laugh, her eyes lighting up with shared joy. "See? You can do it. Just take it one step at a time, just like I did back then." A shy smile spread across Diep's face, her cheeks tinged with a soft blush as a surge of hope filled her, like a rare ray of sunlight in the midst of winter. Together, they continued the lesson, with Lynn and James gently guiding her through more words. Flower, paired with an image of a vibrant red blossom, and water, accompanied by a depiction of a clear, flowing stream. The room was filled with laughter, the soft rustle of turning pages, and the tender tones of both James and Lyn's voices. Lynn added with a warm, reflective tone, "I used to be mocked for not knowing how to read, called country bumpkin, but I kept telling myself, I'm not stupid, I just need time, and here you are, Diep, just keep going." Diep nodded, her eyes now bright with determination, and in a firm, albeit quiet voice, she vowed, "Thank you, I will believe in myself and keep learning, so that this farm isn't just yours, it'll be ours." James squeezed her hand, his eyes glistening with joy. "I know you can do it." That evening, as Diep and James sat by the small fire in the wooden house, the red glow of the burning wood illuminated their faces, casting a warm radiance that pushed back the pervasive chill from the old walls. "Today, the farm made great progress," James said, his voice filled with excitement as he recounted the day's work on his project. "I plan to turn it into a place that not only produces but also teaches. A farm that not only feeds us, but also nourishes minds. Will you help me?" Diep's eyes widened in surprise, and her voice trembled as she replied, "Me? But I barely know anything. I can only read a few words." Grasping her hand, James's warm touch reassured her, as his deep voice promised, "You're learning, and soon you'll know more. I believe in you, not just for what you'll do, but for who you are. You're the one I want to build this dream with." Tears welled in Diep's eyes, shimmering like dewdrops in the firelight. "You and Lynn see something in me that I can't see in myself. I promise I'll try, so I won't let you down, so that I can become the person you need. Yet the bitter memories of Paul's insults, you're stupid, forever useless, and the brutal beatings that had haunted her still lingered like a cold wind, a chilling reminder of a past she struggled to leave behind. But James's tender, unwavering gaze, coupled with Lynn's heartfelt encouragement, lit a warm fire within her that began to heal old wounds. With a small, resolute smile, Di looked up and declared, "I will learn, I will help you so that this farm isn't just yours, it'll be ours. James squeezed her hand, his smile radiating pure joy as he affirmed, I know you can do it. James recounted how he had met Diep, even as his father secretly meddled, imposing the greatest test on their love. While Diep faced the haunting fears of her past, James was determined to protect her. In episode 22, we'll reveal whether they can overcome the stormy challenges to finally be together.
Nhau chắc phải 4-5 năm rồi nhỉ? Hương nói giọng trầm ấm như bún, kéo Diệp về những ngày tháng cũ. Diệp gật đầu, lòng chợt dâng lên chỗ ấm áp khi nhớ lại những ngày còn bé, khi cô và Hương từng chia sẻ những miếng bánh mì khô dưới mái hiên nhà bác Kiên. Dạo này bạn có khỏe không? Hương hỏi tiếp, ánh mắt ánh lên sự quan tâm chân thành. Diệp ngồi xuống bên Hương, đôi tay đan vào nhau như tìm kiếm sự an ủi. Tôi vẫn ổn, cô đáp, nhưng giọng nói không giấu đi được chút run rẩy. Hương nhìn cô, lòng chợt thắt lại khi muốn nhận ra nỗi buồn ẩn sâu trong đôi mắt bạn mình. Cô ấy vẫn mang vẻ cô đơn như ngày xưa. Mình như muốn truyền chút sức mạnh cho Diệp. Chồng bạn đâu rồi? Sao lại làm một mình? Diệp hỏi, cố chuyển hướng câu chuyện, nhưng Hương tự dài ánh mắt buồn. Chúng tôi vừa qua đời được 3 tháng. Diệp sững sờ, lòng trào lên sự đồng cảm sâu sắc. Tôi xin lỗi, cô thì thầm, như nỗi đau của Hương đang